Well, there are new revelations that special counsel Robert Mueller's legal team is nothing more than a pack of attack dogs with disturbing ties to the Democratic Party. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that Mueller's investigator, Andrew Weissmann, attended Hillary Clinton's election night party last November. And, of course, he's also the guy who, well, we'll talk about that in just a moment. Attorney Aaron Zebley, there's his picture. He's known as Mueller's right-hand man. Turns out he previously represented the former Hillary Clinton IT aide who destroyed Clinton's BlackBerries with a hammer. And just yesterday, we learned that another Mueller investigator, Jeannie Ray, represented former Obama National Security Advisor Ben Rhodes and the Clinton Foundation, as well as Hillary Clinton herself, in a lawsuit seeking access to her private emails. Well, what about all of that? Joining me now to talk about it, Chris Farrell, who's Director of Investigations and Research for Judicial Watch. Chris, good to see you. There are so many highly qualified, experienced, and skilled lawyers across America who do not have a political axe to grind. Had Mueller chosen them, it would have lent credibility and integrity to his investigation. He chose not to do that. Are you concerned that the Mueller team, including Mueller himself, have extreme political bias and corrupt motives?
Their credibility is now something less than zero. I mean, it's between the conflicts of interest, and you just outlined a number of them, and then the unlawful or at least highly questionable investigative tactics that have been employed so far. And I have reason to believe that even Chairman Nunes from the Intelligence Committee has been lied to over and over again with respect to this unmasking issue. When you combine all that and you realize that in large part it's the same cast of characters, the same inner circle, who are willfully blind with respect to the Clinton Foundation and Mrs. Clinton's server and Uranium One, et cetera, yet they have excruciating attention to detail on other really minor matters, their credibility is shot. And arguably, there are people involved who aren't just making administrative errors or aren't in some way failing to dot I's and cross T's. They're involved in criminal misconduct, in the abuse of the investigative system and their procedures. This is horrific. There needs to be a special counsel now for the special counsel.
Right. A watchdog looking at the watchdogs.
Correct.
I wrote a column today on FoxNews.com. You can check it out on our front page. It's entitled "Robert Mueller and His Politically Biased Team of Prosecutors Must Go." Let me quote just one part of it, and we'll put it up on the screen. Mueller deliberately assembled a team of partisans with a history of political bias who appeared determined to undo the results of the 2016 presidential election and drive President Trump from office. Because Mueller improperly stacked the deck of his special counsel staff with biased crusaders, he transformed what was supposed to be an impartial investigation into an illegitimate and seemingly corrupt one. To restore integrity, Attorney General Jeff Sessions should unrecuse himself for the limited purpose of cleaning up Mueller's mess. What do you think about that? I've looked into the law, the regulations. There's nothing to prevent Jeff Sessions from stepping in and saying, wait a minute, this is illegitimate. It has the appearance of impropriety, bias, and corruption. I am going to remove Mueller and all of the partisans on that team and replace them with people who are not.
Greg, you nailed it. They need to get fresh blood from the outside. Mueller's been conflicted since day one when it comes to his buddy Comey. The abuse of process and the abuse of investigative powers and authority here, like I said before, I believe is criminal. No one believes anything that they're doing. They spent $7 million in order to go after Paul Manafort with a no-knock pre-dawn warrant and to charge him about spending too much money on his suits, and then go after General Flynn with the absolute thinnest of 1001 false official statement charges. No other charges concerning anything like conspiracy. No one yet can name what the criminal predicate is. What crime occurred?
Right.
No one can tell you. No one.
Well, nobody has had legal standing to challenge the legality of the appointment until somebody was charged. Now we have several people charged who could do it. Let me talk to you about Andrew Weissman, the so-called pit bull prosecutor who has strong allegiance to Democrats. This is a guy who was there at Donald Trump's opponent's, election night party. He's also a guy who wrote a fawning letter to Sally Yates, which is a clear anti-Trump bias. And he's also a guy who has close ties to Hui Chen. He hired her. They have a long history together, and there she is protesting Trump outside the White House, posting it on her Twitter account proudly. Weissman is a guy who has to go. Do you agree?
I couldn't agree more. It's a disgrace that anybody even thought he could get past, the sniff test on this. Here's a guy who's so far hard over anti-Trump and pro-Hillary Clinton. I don't know how anybody can look themselves in the mirror over this one. I would love to see if there's some video isolation of Weissman in the Javits Center, staring at a screen and crying.
Right.
This is a case where the guy's credibility is zero. His own colleagues, there's one assistant U.S. attorney who referred to him as a legal terrorist. This is a guy who goes overboard.
He had an ethics complaint that's 100 pages long. I've read it, in which he's accused of hiding evidence and threatening witnesses in the most unprincipled, thuggish way. We got to leave it at that, Chris.
Sure.
But the bottom line here is Robert Mueller has sabotaged the credibility of his own investigation. Chris,
they're done.
Chris
They're
Farrell,
done.
thanks very much.